A hot breath made Ra Duhan immediately blush and clench his fists, making all sorts of weird noises while just trying to eat ice. To the point where he even blew air onto his neck while eating the third piece of ice. Lac Lam Vien, who was putting it in his mouth, couldn't hold back and squeezed Duhan's hand. "You spit it out!" Lac Lam Vien was surprised and then got mad. "Are you crazy, Duhan? How dare you touch my face over just 2 pieces of ice? Let go of my wrist," he said. But honestly, Duhan felt a bit regretful after he acted. He pulled his hand back, feeling his palm slightly damp, so he didn't. He casually wiped it on his clothes, and the little princess immediately fluffed up, but before he could open his mouth to question, the phone rang. The phone in the house suddenly rang, and Duhan immediately walked over to answer. "I got it, I'm on my way," Lac Lam Vien softly acknowledged. So something happened, and indeed, as soon as Duhan hung up, he hurried into the bedroom to grab some cash, and Lac Lam Vien had no clue. "What are you thinking? What happened?" "I'll go with you," Duhan refused. "No need. This is my personal matter." Lac Lam Vien grabbed his hand. "If you don't have enough money, then take me with you. I can lend you some. I'm not joking. This time it's serious. You two quickly get to the hospital." Duhan's grandma was taken to the emergency room at midnight, and Lac Lam Vien handed him a bottle of water. Duhan, feeling exhausted, said thanks. "Thank goodness. You can go home." Lac Lam Vien sat down. "It doesn't matter if I go home or not." Duhan frowned. "I'm not in the mood right now. I can't even think straight to take care of you." That line felt like a stab to Lac Lam Vien's heart. Who said I had to take care of you? But this was the first time he saw Duhan show such vulnerability. That expression looked like he was afraid of being abandoned. The person in the operating room was definitely very important to Duhan. The coat was placed on his lap, and Duhan didn't look at him, just hugged his knees and squatted down slowly. Luckily, the surgery was very successful, just needed to be monitored. They could be transferred to a regular room by night. Lac Lam Vien sighed in relief. Seeing Duhan still silent, he hurried to comfort him. "Thank you, doctor. You've worked hard." The nurse led them to settle the hospital fees, and Lac Lam Vien stayed close to Duhan. Seeing the 30,000, Lac Lam Vien suddenly became serious. He felt a bit heartbroken, wondering how long it would take Duhan to earn that 30,000. He had just started earning money, and he was still just a high school student. After paying, Duhan was getting ready to go back to class, and Lac Lam Vien, feeling anxious, suggested he take a day off. "Dude, it's almost dawn. Your grades are good enough. Taking a day off won't hurt." Duhan sighed. "No, my grades aren't good enough, at least not close to the target. Time is precious to me. I can't waste even one day, and I don't have the right to." Lac Lam Vien saw he wasn't listening, feeling both angry and worried, and had to force Duhan to eat breakfast. You can't go to school on an empty stomach. At noon, Lac Lam Vien proudly handed Duhan a cup of coffee, and Duhan smiled. "Thanks." The team captain from Class 10 enthusiastically called Lac Lam Vien over for lunch, but he declined. The captain clicked his tongue, looking at his back. "This classmate Lac is just a bit cold, but with a face like that, if he were a girl, I wouldn't even need to chase after the class beauty. I'd just go after him instead." Duhan frowned. "This coffee is too sweet." The captain looked at him. "Can't you see? He's really handsome." Duhan replied coldly. "Boring. Are we really going to discuss whether a guy is handsome or not?" The captain seemed to wake up, slightly embarrassed. "Yeah, that's true. It feels kinda gay. I didn't expect Duhan to comment that he's handsome." The captain's eyes went wide as he saw Fung Tiu, all fired up, pointing at Lac Lam Vien, ready to spill the tea. Lac Lam Vien brushed his chopsticks away, saying it was just to be friends, but Fung Tiu immediately acted all hurt. Even so, seeing him like he was enchanted by those other little fairies made me super annoyed. Fung Tiu glanced at Lac Lam Vien's tray, noticing he barely ate, and started nagging him that this wasn't okay. "Dude, you're gonna be malnourished with no muscles like that." Lac Lam Vien shot him a look, saying, "You eat a lot too, but where are your muscles?" That one hit Fung Tiu right in the feels, like, "I'm still growing." "Growing?" Lac Lam Vien smirked. "Duhan is also at that age and already has a full set of muscles. What's your excuse?" "Have you seen or touched them?" Lac Lam Vien declared confidently. "You don't need to touch to know Duhan has an 8-pack that's rock hard." Fung Tiu's eyes went wide, trying to process that. Before Lac Lam Vien could react, a carton of milk was placed on the table by Duhan, who looked a bit shy, treating it as a thank you. At that moment, Lac Lam Vien just wanted to move to the mountains. The captain was all about praising Azu's abs, saying they were impressive, and last time he broke the record doing sit-ups. After saying that, he was about to pat Lac Lam Vien on the shoulder. But as his hand was about to touch him, Duhan frowned and stepped in between. "You two, let's go. It's time for lunch break." While Duhan was packing up, he felt the buzz around him. Oh, Lac Lam Vien is here. His movement slowed down as he looked up and saw Lac Lam Vien at the door, playing on his phone, leaning against the wall, waiting for someone. He looked like a painting. Nyum Toot stepped in front of him, blocking his view. Let's go together. Duhan didn't answer right away. Instead, he kept looking towards the school gate, where a handsome guy and a pretty girl were standing together, the scene looking like something out of a drama. Nyum Tu followed Duhan's gaze, thinking they looked like a perfect couple. Hapfu stepped up to Lac Lam Vien, looking for him. Hey, let's change places to talk. Both of them went into a pastry shop, and Hapfu looked a bit dazed. So, is this really the end? She was the type to start a conversation, so she could also end it. We're breaking up. I don't want to be with you anymore. Lac Lam Vien felt a bit guilty as Hapfu stood up and hurriedly left the pastry shop. After Hapfu left, Lac Lam Vien grabbed 2 bags and was heading to visit Duhan's grandma when he ran into Num Toot. Num Toot was at the hospital, holding a thermos, smiling and greeting him. What a coincidence. Lac Lam Vien didn't respond, and both felt awkward stepping into the elevator. Num Toot asked, "Is someone sick at your house?" Lac Lam Vien shot back, "Is someone sick at your house too?" Num Toot raised the thermos and said, "I'm visiting." "I'm going to visit my grandma," Lac Lam Vien said straightforwardly. Grandma Duhan. Num Toot's expression turned strange, and he wanted to ask how they were related. But thinking about the scene on the rooftop the other day made that question feel unnecessary. Duhan had sent this guy to take care of his grandma, so he probably planned to get married right after graduation. Lac Lam Vien angrily stepped out of the elevator, finding a spot to sit, downing his bubble tea, eating pastries, and peeling half a bag of sour oranges. They were so sour they almost made him cry. Just then, his phone rang, and it was a call from Duhan. Lac Lam Vien hit decline, thinking, no more oranges. Eating them only made him feel worse. The next day, when Duhan and the captain came to talk to Fung Tiu about the basketball match, they found out Lac Lam Vien's gastritis had flared up again, so he didn't come to class. At that moment, Lac Lam, not sweet at all. It's so sour it makes me want to cry. Just then, the phone rang, and it was a call from Duhan. Vien refused, saying he didn't want to eat tangerines anymore because they made him feel worse. The next day, when Duhan and the captain came to find Fung Tiu to talk business, while playing basketball, he found out that Lac Lam Vien's stomach condition had relapsed, so he didn't come to class today. Vien was having breakfast, halfway through when he saw a new message. He puffed his cheeks, hesitating whether to reply or not. Uncle Nu noticed that young master was staring at his phone and reminded him to finish this egg. I'll go later. Lac Lam Vien waved his hand, saying he would definitely eat later. Right now, he had something urgent to do. At first, he planned not to reply, but then felt unwilling, so he texted back that it was nothing, just a wrong send. Oh well, Duhan chuckled at the message. When Lac Lam Vien stepped out, he bumped into his dad returning home, and he was so happy that his face turned bright red, running over to hug his dad. Finally, he was back. The two chatted for a bit. Then his dad got back in the car, saying he had to go on a business trip to Hong Kong and couldn't stay to celebrate his birthday. The little princess felt a bit left out. Actually, he knew his dad was avoiding meeting his mom. The man who took Lac Lam Vien to school even handed him a birthday card inviting friends to eat and have fun. As he went, Lac Lam Vien casually stuffed the card into his pocket and then saw Duhan walking over from across the street. Lac Din noticed his son staring in one direction and asked what was up. So Lam Vien hesitated, unsure whether to greet him, when he heard a voice. Hello, uncle. Duhan was standing right next to Lac Lam Vien, suddenly feeling tense. Dad, this is my friend. Duhan Lac Ding looked surprised. You look a lot like a friend of mine. He turned to his son. I really like this friend of yours. Vien suddenly felt tense. Dad, this is my friend, Duhan. Lac Din said in surprise. You look very. Next time, remember to bring him home for dinner, okay? Lac Lam Vien didn't understand what his dad liked about Duhan. He was always cold to his friends. The whole way, Duhan was quiet. Even though he had initiated the greeting earlier, he didn't say anything else. Lac Lam Vien noticed that Duhan was holding, like my son. Next time, remember to bring him home for dinner. Lac Lam Vien didn't understand what his dad liked about Duhan. He was always cold to his friends. The whole way, Duhan was silent. Clearly, he had just initiated the greeting, but now he wasn't saying anything. Lac Lam Vien noticed Duhan was holding something in his hand. At that moment, Duhan turned to him and said, You went to the hospital yesterday. A box of fried noodles. A growing boy only eating a box of noodles? Wait, why am I even caring about him? At that moment, Duhan turned to him and said, You went to the hospital yesterday, and then? At this moment, Duhan turned to him and said, You went to the hospital yesterday. Oh, hearing that, Lac Lam Vien immediately knew that Num Tu had told him. He started feeling uncomfortable. Duhan smiled slightly. Laklam. Vian shot him a glance, thinking, "Are you trying to lecture me? Like, don't just visit your grandma without asking. We're not that close." Duhan seemed choked up. "I wanted to visit my grandma. After school, I'll take you." After school, Laklam Vian declined Fung Tiu's invitation to play games and also turned down the hot pot invitation. Fung Tiu was not happy, saying it had been a while since they gathered. He refused Fung Tiu's invitation to play games and also turned down the hot pot invitation. Fung Tiu was not happy. It had been a while since they gathered. Meanwhile, the little princess was smirking, looking at her phone and smiling brightly. "I have something to do on the bus." Laklam. Vian felt annoyed because everywhere was a place someone else had touched. Duhan saw this and felt a bit helpless. "You're clinging to me. Let's go." Laklam Vian didn't move. Just a second later, Duhan wrapped his arm around his shoulders, almost half hugging, half pulling him into his embrace. Laklam Vian was startled by that action, his chin almost touching Duhan's uniform. The shadow of him was right next to his cheek, and he could distinctly feel Duhan's warmth and scent. His heart felt like it was about to jump out. His hand gripped. It startled him, his chin almost touching Duhan's uniform. The shadow of him was on his cheek, and he could distinctly feel Duhan's warmth and scent. His heart felt like it was about to jump out. His hand. He could distinctly feel the warmth and scent of Duhan. His heart was about to leap out. His hand was gripping the hem of his shirt. He smelled so much like Duhan. Duhan was still very natural. Only when the bus swayed violently did he hold him tightly. Laklam Vian was flustered, pretending to look at his phone. Duhan's voice rang in his ear, was gripping tightly. Laklam Vian felt flustered and pretended to check his phone. Duhan's voice rang in his ears. "Hold on, don't mess with your phone." Laklam Vian felt dissatisfied because Duhan was using a tone like he was teaching him. To remind himself, he looked up at An with annoyance, but when their eyes met, he was lost. Once again, Vian was captivated by the beauty of Duhan's eyelashes. They were so pretty. He just wanted to touch them, wanted to kiss those lashes. Thinking about it. Here, Vian was startled. What was he thinking about? At that moment, the bus suddenly braked hard. Vian stumbled back. Duhan quickly grabbed his hand, pulling him into his arms, different from the times when they only lightly touched. This time, Duhan held Vian tightly. Duhan awkwardly embraced Vian until he steadied himself before letting go. Duhan was about to ask if he was okay, but froze when he saw Vian with his eyes tightly shut. His hands clutched at Duhan's shirt. Clearly a boy, yet he smelled so good. Like that, the sweet scent of strawberry milk made one want to get closer. Duhan quickly pulled away, handing him a tissue. "Use this." Vian stupidly grabbed the bus handle, and for the whole ride, no one said a word. Arriving at the hospital, Duhan's grandmother really liked Vian, holding her hand and gently patting it continuously. Duhan was surprised because the little princess, at that moment, showed no sign of annoyance, just a bit awkward in front of her enthusiasm. After leaving the hospital, Duhan apologized for his grandmother being a bit inconsiderate. Vian shot him a glare. "I didn't say anything, don't take it personally." Duhan had to give in, saying, "Let's go," because it was getting late. Suddenly, Duhan asked, "Did you break up?" Vian paused and then quietly replied, "Yeah, we broke up." When asked why, Vian said there was no reason. Breaking up is just breaking up. Duhan turned to ask again. "Not because of someone else, right?" Vian was a bit startled. He thought it was because of someone. Duhan also looked away. "I think the reason isn't because of anyone." That roundabout answer made Vian frustrated, and he didn't really know the reason. What does breaking up mean? When he got home, Vian was surprised to see his dad there too. During dinner, he told his dad about Duhan's situation. His dad listened seriously and praised Duhan for not having it easy. After eating, Vian happily made coffee for his dad, but when he reached the door, he heard his parents arguing. In the end, he returned to his room, crawled under the blanket. His phone buzzed with a message from Duhan thanking him. His grandmother told him to bring some food for him. Vian wasn't sure why, maybe because he was feeling so vulnerable right now. He replied, "My birthday is in a few days. What are you planning to give me?" After sending it, he realized their relationship wasn't close enough to ask for a gift. Vian quickly retracted the message, but Duhan had already read it and asked what he wanted. "For my 18th birthday, I'll give you a cocktail, okay?" "Oh wait, you can't drink." Vian objected. "Who said I can't drink? I'm really good at it." Duhan laughed. "I've seen you before, sitting on the curb almost getting tricked." Then he suggested, "How about I bring you a bowl of longevity noodles?" Tears fell from Vian's eyes onto the screen. He wiped them away, just replied with a simple, "Okay." On Vian's birthday, for some reason, his parents still threw him a party. But after dinner, his mom took her dress and left. Vian had nothing to do, didn't want to go back to his room, so he just stood there looking around. Suddenly, he saw someone he thought he would never meet here. It was Duhan, the little princess. Instinctively wanting to avoid him, if Duhan saw him here, it would definitely feel very humiliating. He searched. After the meal at the party, his mom immediately took her dress and left. Laklam Vian had nothing to do and didn't want to go back. He just stood there, looking around. Suddenly, he saw someone he thought he would never meet here. It was Duhan, the little princess. Instinctively wanting to avoid him, if Duhan saw him here, he would definitely feel very embarrassed. He looked for, Uncle No was supposed to take my money so Duhan could leave early. Uncle No looked closely and suddenly pushed my shoulder down against him. That man seemed to be intentionally invited by the boss. So, Laklam Vian went to find his dad Ding not long after. To be honest, even though Han needed the money, Uncle Cho gave him a chance to work. Laklam Vian was silenced and couldn't argue back. Sure, but Dad shouldn't call him for occasions like this. Ding questioned Cho's son about his actions. Using his own hands to earn money is shameful. Doesn't Duhan know what's going on today? What's he doing here? Hearing that, Laklam Vian was completely speechless. Lak Ding picked up the phone, maybe to call his son's friend. Here you go, and then he ordered someone downstairs to bring Duhan up. Laklam Vian panicked. Why is Dad calling him up? Lak Ding just smiled and didn't answer. Knock knock knock, excuse me, can I come in? Laklam Vian was scared stiff and quickly hid behind the desk. It's Lak Ding's business. Reluctantly, Lak Ding glanced at him. Come in. Duhan walked in and asked, what do you need? What do I need? Lak Ding said, half smiling. It's nothing big. You're busy today. Just this? You can go home now. Duhan was a bit surprised that Ding recognized the look in his son's eyes. Full of intimidation, Ben said, I accidentally let you bump into my son, which is a bit awkward, even though you two are classmates. Duhan calmly replied, this job doesn't pay badly. You also gave me the chance because Laklam Vian and I are classmates. Why feel awkward? Lak Ding burst out laughing. Not bad. Young man, I really value you. After Duhan left, Laklam Vian glared at his dad. Why are you bullying him like that? Lak Ding looked at his son with a hint of pity. Then Dad has to teach you something. For him, every opportunity to earn money is not bullying. Moreover, the money Duhan earns is clean and legitimate. In this regard, you can't compare to him. If possible, I hope you never understand this. This is true, but in the business world, people like Duhan are better. After that, Laklam Vian went to find Duhan. At that time, it was evening. The golden sun was shining brightly across the ground. Duhan stood in the light. Happy birthday, classmate. Laklam Vian felt his chest warm up. I thought you were mad. Duhan didn't understand. Why should I be angry? The birthday gift is still me cooking you a bowl of noodles, okay? Duhan hesitated a bit. If I really brought the little princess from a big party back home to eat noodles, it might be a bit too simple. Unexpectedly, Laklam Vian looked at him with hopeful eyes. Okay, Duhan immediately agreed. The little princess wrapped around Duhan. When the party ended, he originally planned to tell his parents he was going out to play, but saw the two of them arguing. What a bummer. Laklam Vian then went to Duhan. Take me away, anywhere is fine. Duhan was a bit surprised by his reaction. The little princess felt a bit awkward, thinking he found her very strange. Unexpectedly, Duhan said, all right, turning around to call out to the middle-aged man nearby. Mr. Lam, I'm heading back first. Then, he smiled. At Laklam Vian, let's go, I'll take you out of here. Duhan's voice had a teasing tone, making Laklam Vian feel like he was about to run away with him. Duhan grabbed Laklam Vian's hand, ready to leave, but he quickly whispered, we can't go out this way, or we'll get caught. We'll lose our advantage. They went around to the backyard. Then, at the tall wall, Duhan looked at his posture and asked, can you climb? Of course, Laklam Vian quietly blinked at An. In the end, Duhan could only sigh and bend down for him to step on his shoulder. To climb up the wall, Laklam Vian successfully made it up and excitedly called down, I made it, but then both of them realized the problem. Duhan struggled to speak. Was he really not going to jump down? Laklam Vian said, don't underestimate me. After saying that, he jumped down with a splash. With a thud, he fell to the ground, and Duhan had to carry him to the nearby hotel. Laklam Vian boldly placed the card on the reception desk. Super room. Luxury class, the kind that has a kitchen. Indeed, once you become an adult, you can do whatever you want. After checking in, he took a shower. After washing up, he realized he hadn't brought any clothes. He poked his head out to call for help, but couldn't see Duhan anywhere. Had he really left? Why? Oh well, whatever. At least he had to dry off first. He immediately jumped out, and just as he was drying off halfway, the door made a beeping sound as the card was swiped. The door opened, and the little princess froze, hugging himself. Turning around, he saw Duhan carrying several plastic bags inside. The two locked eyes, one was naked, and the other was stunned. In the end, it was still Lac Lam Vien's scream that broke the silence. He didn't have time to check if the bed was clean, and directly jumped onto the bed, covering his head with the blanket. Duhan also felt a bit embarrassed, saying, "I took your clothes to the dry cleaner, and bought you some disposable underwear and a towel to use temporarily. I'm going to the kitchen to cook some noodles first." Lac Lam Vien waited until he heard Duhan in the kitchen before he finally lifted his head, wrapping the disposable towel around his waist and stepping in to find Duhan. He crossed his arms over his chest to cover the top and awkwardly asked, "How? Much longer until it's done?" Duhan also felt awkward, with a lot of smoke in the kitchen, saying, "You just finished showering, don't come in." So Lac Lam Vien got kicked out. Lac Lam Vien grumbled as he went outside and accidentally bumped into a small box of powder. With a thud, the box and its contents spilled all over the floor. Lac Lam Vien sat down to pick it up, but when he saw what was inside the small box, he immediately panicked. Duhan called out from the kitchen, "Can you eat onions?" Lac Lam Vien was startled and hurriedly threw the colorful small boxes away. I don't have any." Duhan slightly twitched the corner of his mouth. "If you don't eat onions, then how about garlic or vinegar?" His gaze swept over the boxes on the floor. "Don't rummage through these, you're still young." Lac Lam Vien immediately fluffed up. "You're not that much older." He was eating noodles while secretly glancing at Duhan. He was still holding his phone texting, then suddenly looked up and caught some boxes on the floor. "Don't rummage through this stuff, you're still a kid." Lac Lam Vien immediately fluffed up. "You're not that much older." He was eating noodles while secretly glancing at Duhan. He was still texting on his phone, then suddenly looked up and caught Lac Lam Vien's gaze. "What are you looking at?" The little princess blushed a bit. "You have a really nice figure. I want to have a body like that too. Boys should have muscles, right?" Duhan's gaze lingered on him for a moment. Lac Lam Vien felt embarrassed and annoyed, shrinking down under the table. "Don't look anymore." Duhan smiled and looked away. "Hurry up and eat." After dinner, Duhan washed the dishes. The little princess stood behind him. "Stay with me tonight, it's getting late." Duhan put the dishes away and said, "I have to go home, you stay here." Lac Lam Vien immediately disagreed. "This room is a double, no one is waiting for you at home." As soon as he said that, he regretted it, wanting to bite his tongue off. He didn't understand. "Stay with me, it's late." Duhan put the bowl away and said, "I have to go home, you can stay here." Lac Lam Vien immediately disagreed. "This room is a double, no one is waiting for you at home." As soon as he said that, he regretted it, wanting to bite his tongue. He didn't understand. Nobody at home is waiting for you. As soon as he said that, he immediately regretted it, wanting to bite his own tongue. He couldn't understand why those 4 words seemed to be made for him. He hurriedly explained, "I didn't mean it like that, it's just that it's not safe for you to go back this late. Besides, you've been busy all day." Just then, the phone rang, a birthday song playing from Duhan's phone. Lac Lam Vien was dumbfounded. Duhan picked up the phone, smiled at him. Happy birthday. How he could go home safely like this. Besides, he had been busy all day. Just then, the phone rang. A birthday tune played from Duhan's phone. Lac Lam Vien was stunned. Duhan picked up the phone and smiled at him. "Happy birthday, I wish." The sound coming from Duhan's phone. Lac Lam Vien was confused. Duhan held the phone, smiling at him. "Happy birthday, congratulations." "Happy birthday to the little princess." After that, Duhan prepared to leave, and without thinking, Lac Lam Vien grabbed him. "Happy birthday to the little princess." After that, Duhan prepared to leave without thinking. Lac Lam Vien grabbed him. But this pull made him forget that his leg was injured, and he fell straight down. Taking Duhan down with him, they both fell on top of each other, and Lac Lam Vien looked up, clearly just one person. The man smelled like sweat, yet he felt his legs go weak and his waist soft, as if enchanted more and more. He got closer until Duhan covered his face with his hand, blocking his mouth. What was he planning to do? Lam Vien still hadn't regained his senses, looking dazed. What a weird reaction. "I wasn't planning to do anything." Duhan couldn't believe it. "So you suddenly got close for no reason?" "What are you planning to do?" Lac Lam Vien shot back. "What do you think I want to do?" Duhan was momentarily speechless. "What's up?" Lac Lam Vien seemed to have found a weak spot, continuing to get closer. "What do you want me to do with you?" Duhan stopped talking. He pushed him away, and Lac Lam Vien felt a sharp pain in his leg as if he was injured for the second time. Duhan sighed, reaching out to help him up, but the little princess got mad. "Don't touch me!" Duhan grabbed his hand. "Stop messing around! If you fall again, your leg will really be done for. There, Lac Lam Vien couldn't stand that anxious look anymore and softened his voice. You go ahead. Weren't you in a hurry just now? Duhan looked at him. I'm not in a hurry. Just don't move. Trying to shift under that stern gaze, Lac Lam Vien immediately hesitated. What? If I don't move, I won't move. Right after that, he cried out in despair. Oh no, I have to go to the hospital. You're a quack. Don't touch me. Finally, Duhan decided to stay. Lac Lam Vien sat on the bed, peeking out. Is this glass really transparent? Are you crazy? Are you crazy? Just now Duhan was outside and saw everything. He could see every movement of himself. Why was he wasting time peeping at a man showering? It was blinding for a few seconds. Then he secretly pulled the blanket down, glancing towards the bathroom, just a little peek. When Duhan stepped out of the bathroom, a female voice echoed through the wall into their ears. Duhan was drying his hair and said, What's so interesting to listen to? Go to sleep, Lao Lam. Vien lay back down and said, Compared to listening to women moan, I prefer listening to men moan. Duhan was surprised and shot him a glance. What nonsense are you talking about? Lac Lam Vien retorted. I know everything. Aren't you in love with Nyumtu? Duhan clearly didn't want to discuss this topic. It's getting late, go to sleep. Lam Vien was curious. And how much do you like Nyumtu? Why do you like men? Nyumtu is just normal, why do you like him? Duhan really couldn't stand his rambling. Shut up! Why are you asking so much? Lac Lam Vien also felt that his question was too abrupt. Deep down, he thought, we're not even friends, no need to talk so much. So Duhan pouted, I just don't want to talk about those things. Lac Lam Vien was puzzled. Why does Duhan feel so helpless? This idiot still didn't understand. Just like earlier, he clearly wanted to kiss him. Anyone outside could see that. Yet he himself didn't know. His body instinctively leaned towards him, but his mind was clearly saying if they continued to touch, Lac Lam Vien would eventually understand what he really wanted. But Duhan's life was already too tiring. He really didn't have the energy to deal with a man who didn't even realize his own direction. It's better to clarify things early. So he opened his mouth. Lac Lam Vien, I think you might understand. Wrong about one thing. Whether you believe it or not, I don't like men. Lac Lam Vien was shocked, his eyes wide open. How can that be? How can it not be? Me and Num. Duhan was too exhausted, really had no strength left to deal with a guy who didn't even realize his own direction. He should have made it clear early on, so he opened his mouth. Lac Lam Vien, I think you probably understand. Wrong about one thing. Whether you believe it or not, I don't like guys. Lac Lam Vien was shocked, eyes wide. How can that be? It's just a misunderstanding. Lac Lam Vien held on for a while and then suddenly reacted. So, Duhan and Nyumtu aren't in that kind of relationship. Duhan glanced over at him, just in time to catch his smiling face. What are you laughing at, Lac Lam Vien? He quickly dove under the blanket. You're mistaken. I'm not laughing. Duhan called out his name, emphasizing each word. I'm straight. I don't like men. Lac Lam Vien suddenly felt a bit panicked. Why did he have to emphasize this to me? Duhan sighed softly, still not saying it too directly. Of course you wouldn't like men, so you definitely wouldn't like Lac Lam Vien. He thought Lac Lam Vien should understand the implication in his words. The next morning, after Lac Lam Vien woke up, Duhan had disappeared quickly, as if he had never been there. Lac Lam Vien called Phung Tiu, asking him to go out for a walk with him. Lac Lam Vien bought a bunch of clothes. After that, he turned around and sent Phung Tiu home, saying he wanted to take a taxi back first. Phung Tiu was so mad he stomped his feet, ultimately just helplessly watching Lac Lam Vien carry a bunch of bags onto the taxi without a care, leaving him with just a shadow. When Lac Lam Vien called, Duhan was tutoring a 9th grade student. After class, the parent awkwardly said, My child has made quite a bit of progress this midterm exam. I think we don't need extra classes anymore. Duhan lowered his eyes and replied, I understand, then we'll end the extra classes here. On the way home, Duhan was lost in thought. How am I going to make up for the 400 yuan I didn't earn this weekend? Maybe I need to find another part-time job. Luckily, right now, the living expenses and medicine money are still enough. When he got home, he saw Lac Lam Vien squatting in front of the door. Duhan felt a cold sweat running down his back. What is he doing here? Lac Lam Vien stood up. I brought clothes for you. Didn't I already wear some of your clothes? Duhan walked around him. I told you I don't need them. Lac Lam Vien was unhappy. I took off all the tags. I didn't buy them for myself. If you don't accept them, I can't wear them either. After entering the house, Duhan poured Lac Lam Vien a glass of water. He pulled out a black t-shirt, a regular shirt but with a price tag of 2,980 yuan. Lac Lam Vien was shocked. Oh no, the tags aren't all off. Duhan put the shirt back. Too expensive, I can't accept it. Actually, this shirt is a bit loose, but you could still wear it. I know you mean well, but I really can't accept it. Lac Lam Vien looked closely at Duhan's expression. He's angry, but why? This expression doesn't look like he's angry. You're a bit confused. Previously, when the whole school donated, Duhan also accepted gifts at your birthday party. Duhan didn't feel embarrassed then. So why is he refusing to accept gifts now? You feel a bit disappointed. Well, I'll be going then. Duhan looked at Lac Lam Vien's back and clearly saw the disappointment, even imagining a tail and droopy ears. Before regretting it, Duhan called him back. If you really want to return those clothes, then go to the supermarket with me. Lac Lam Vien immediately perked up. Duhan looked at him. As soon as they entered the supermarket, he was like a puppy let loose, just helpless. Lac Lam Vien happily wanted to buy some Coke to keep in the fridge. Duhan coldly said, "No Coke to drink and bring back, you'll sweat like crazy." Lac Lam Vien didn't want to sweat, so he had to compromise. The two bought some vegetables, and Duhan coldly told him to pay for everything. "No Coke to drink and bring back, you'll sweat like crazy." Lac Lam Vien didn't want to sweat, so he had to compromise. The two bought some vegetables, and Duhan coldly told him to pay for everything. Sweating. Lac Lam Vien didn't want to sweat, so he compromised. The two bought some vegetables, and Duhan coldly told him to pay for everything. The snacks were limited to 3 options, and Lac Lam Vien decided to pick a pack of milk candy after much deliberation. But this kind is so delicious, it even has juice when you bite into it. Duhan still tried to convince him to swap it for something else. Lac Lam Vien looked at him with a pitiful expression, and they locked eyes for a moment. In the end, Duhan relented. Alright, buying it made Lam Vien so happy. You'd think he had never been this excited just to get milk candy. Duhan sighed softly as he watched Lam Vien's cheerful back. It wouldn't be long until they were heading to the bar, yet he chose to go out and buy ingredients to cook for Lac Lam Vien. Seriously, what was he thinking? Lac Lam Vien was thrilled to see fish being cut for the first time, and suddenly he remembered the cartoon Bunny Prison and thought Duhan might enjoy it too. Duhan played along and asked if he thought he'd be into funny cartoons. Lac Lam Vien nodded, saying it might make him laugh. If he could laugh more, that would help him feel better. He was so tired already. Duhan tilted his head to look at him. He really was a strange person, sometimes acting like a clueless little boy, and other times seeing through everything with more understanding than anyone else. Sometimes he was stubborn, and other times he was overly warm. Lac Lam Vien rebutted that strange side of him, clearly treating others well but being so harsh on him. From the first meeting, he pushed him against the wall, threatened him not to speak out, told him not to pretend to be friendly at school, ignored his calls, rejected his gifts, and even refused to share a room with him. Just thinking about it made Lac Lam Vien feel so wronged. Duhan was momentarily speechless, and seeing him not argue back made Lac Lam Vien even angrier. Did he dare say he never did any of those things? Duhan turned back and said, "Next time I take you to shower, that doesn't count as a threat, right?" Lac Lam Vien lifted his chin. Fine, if he cooked a nice meal tonight, he'd let it slide. Duhan really couldn't argue with Lac Lam Vien's words. Hearing him say that made him realize he hadn't been treating him all that well either. He patted the little princess's head, causing Lac Lam Vien to squeal and run away. He touched the fish and then dared to pat my head? Duhan pulled his hand back, saying he had washed his hands, plus he was the one who wanted to eat fish. Lac Lam Vien turned away in annoyance, washing his hair. Duhan laughed, wondering why he hadn't noticed how adorable he was before. "Let's eat," Lac Lam Vien said, his eyes crinkling with a smile. "I like this phrase." Duhan raised an eyebrow, and Lac Lam Vien replied, "I like the phrase, 'let's eat.' Can you keep saying that from now on?" Duhan didn't answer, neither denying nor wanting to force a promise he couldn't keep. Lac Lam Vien laughed and called Duhan, "So spicy." Duhan handed him some water, telling him to eat less. Lac Lam Vien's face turned bright red, but he shook his head. "No way, I want to eat. They never let me eat this stuff at home." Duhan took a napkin to wipe his mouth, saying they were right not to let him eat that. His eyes were as red as a rabbit's, and Lac Lam Vien felt a bit wronged. "Then don't look at me." Duhan gently closed his eyes. "I don't want to look either." Lac Lam Vien, not happy, broke into a smile. Barefoot, he stepped on Duhan's pants, and he helplessly grabbed Lac Lam Vien's ankle. "Stop messing around, just eat your food." Lac Lam Vien huffed, ate a few more bites, then looked up, reminding him to wash his hands before continuing to eat. "You touched my leg earlier." After finishing the meal, Duhan washed the dishes. Lac Lam Vien sat on the sofa playing games. When Duhan came out of the kitchen, he happened to see Lac Lam Vien exposing a little bit of his underwear. He quickly looked away and said, "Sit properly. Put your legs down, Lac Lam Vien." Vien wasn't happy and smiled. Barefoot, he stepped on Duhan's pants, and he helplessly grabbed his ankle. "Don't mess around, just eat your food." Lac Lam Vien huffed, ate a few more bites, then raised his head, reminding him to wash his hands and continue eating. "You touched my leg earlier." After they finished eating, Duhan washed the dishes. Lac Lam Vien sat on the sofa playing games. When Duhan came out of the kitchen, he just happened to see a small part of his underwear exposed. He immediately looked away, saying, "Sit properly, put your legs down, Lac Lam Vien. Keep eating, you just touched my leg, you know." After finishing the meal, Duhan washed the dishes. Lac Lam Vien was sitting on the sofa playing games. When Duhan came out of the kitchen, he happened to see Lac Lam Vien exposing a little bit of his underwear. He immediately looked away, sat up straight, and lowered his legs away from Lac Lam Vien. At Duhan's house, it was super chill. They had just met, but he was already so carefree. Duhan reminded him to leave the keys when he went out. In the flower pot on the third floor by the window, Lac Lam Vien was still glued to his game. "I know, hurry up and go to work, Duhan. You're being so reckless again. Is this how you act at your friend's house too?" Lac Lam Vien stubbornly replied, "It's all boys, dude. I have what you have, so what's there to be scared of?" This time Duhan didn't argue back, just said he was right. After that, once Duhan left, Lac Lam Vien immediately flopped onto the sofa, totally not serious. It felt so good to be spoiled like that, and the shirt he was wearing was clearly one Duhan had from high school, but it didn't smell musty like old clothes. Instead, it had a faint, clean scent of freshly washed stuff. Duhan took that outfit out not for him, but for someone else. This might be the classic tough exterior but soft inside. When Duhan got home, Lac Lam Vien had already left, leaving a glass of milk and a note on the table. Duhan stared at the note for a while. The handwriting was really bad, but the milk was definitely tasty. Usually he was someone who easily got soft-hearted, but he had never been this soft-hearted before. Maybe it was because of this little warmth. Once you feel it, you can easily become weak. He even forgot the pressure he was supposed to bear. This warmth wasn't a good medicine. It was a sweet poison that made a person. Even if it was bitter, they couldn't give it up. When Lac Lam Vien got home, he saw his dad waiting. Lac Ding looked at the outfit that clearly didn't fit his son's figure and guessed it was from that boy Duhan. Lac Lam Vien didn't deny it. He suddenly remembered something his dad had said before. Duhan looked like an old friend of his parents. That was a total beauty. Lac Ding felt a bit helpless. "What are you thinking? Dad knew your mom, but between us, it's completely clean. Your mom is a woman who was your dad's friend. It has nothing to do with him." Lac Lam Vien wanted his dad to help Duhan. He often ate very little and slept even less. "I'm worried that one day he might collapse." Lac Ding said he would find a way, then urged him to hurry upstairs to sleep. The next day after school, when Lac Lam Vien planned to go eat ramen with his friends, he was stopped by Duhan. "Your dad told me to take you home." Lac Lam Vien was confused. "Why should I let you take me home?" Duhan replied, "This afternoon, your dad's assistant found me, saying that from Monday to Friday, I have to tutor you for 2 hours every day." Lac Lam Vien immediately lost his cool. He originally just asked his dad to help Duhan, but never said he had to sacrifice. He really messed up. Duhan noticed his reluctance, so he said, "Go negotiate with your dad then. This isn't necessarily a done deal." Seeing Duhan about to leave, Lac Lam Vien quickly called him back. "Wait, it's just tutoring. I can handle it." Duhan seemed to guess what he was thinking. He said to discuss it with his dad first before deciding. Lac Lam Vien ran over, patted him on the shoulder. "My dad is the old-fashioned patriarch type. Once he says something, I can't go against it, so just come and tutor me." After saying that, he grabbed Duhan's hand and pulled him along. "Let's go home and study." As soon as they got home, Lac Lam Vien immediately asked, "What did my dad say to you? How much did he pay you? Did you negotiate more? Did he give you a bonus, little princess?" "For sure.